Hello and welcome to the video for Basic Audio Production, Wednesday, September 16th. I'm going to let people in from the waiting room. Hello.
Hey Greg,
Hey, how you guys doing?
pretty good.
Awesome. What's new? Anything?
Not too much.
Yeah? Are you still able to use your gym these days, Dylan?
Yeah, it's open. Surprisingly, I thought it was gonna close, but I'm crossing my fingers it's gonna stay open.
Yeah, how often do you get out there?
Almost every day.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
I'm trying.
Now, is there such a thing as taking a day off like to recover or something like that?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I kind of have the opposite schedule. I take most days off and then I just go to the gym. Like, yeah, but yeah, my gym opened too. I think I told you that, and I'm thrilled about it. Um, do you wear a mask when you're at the gym?
Yeah, that's required,
Oh, okay. That's
but
good.
I don't
That's
really have a problem with it. It's kind of easy.
it's kind of what?
It's kind of easy.
Oh yeah, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let me go ahead and get the attendance here. So I'm just gonna go into the Pima website, put in everybody's attendance, and then we will get started. Okay, so basic audio production. Okay, got it. Let's see. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you guys are having a good morning. I'm going to share my screen and jump over here to the website, the class website. But first, I just want to check in with you guys. So, how you guys doing on Project One? Are you guys making some progress on that?
Well, this is Carl, and after the accident, shooting stopped. So I've kind of been like sidelined for a second, and I went to the doctors yesterday, and hopefully they're gonna give me some medicine and maybe send me to the ER. It depends.
Oh my.
Thankfully, my wife's a nurse, so I should be okay.
Was it an auto accident?
Actually, it was by the car, but it wasn't actually in the car. How's that?
Oh
It
wow.
was a.
Oh man.
I'm already handicapped from
Oh,
the military and other stuff, so this just kind of tweaked my back so bad that I lost my legs for a little bit.
oh, gee.
So so now I'm sort of coming up. I have a lot of pain. I live in pain. That's fine. It's when I can't walk is when I get a little frustrated. So medically, I'm getting better, but I'm not, I can't walk the dogs, let's put it that way, which pisses me off, and I can't shoot. So I'm trying to take film that I got and rearrange it into some sort of stuff. I wanted to do I had, my thing was going to be like a lock commercial. And I guess this will be my portion. I was going to do a lock commercial for a house lock. And it starts out at dark, and then a light clicks on, and it's outside the back door. And then the light clicks off, and then there's some music and audio in the background that's building up, like almost like a Jaws type thing, but not a Jaws thing. I had it in a like a saxophone, but an eerie bass saxophone. It was really weird. It sounded good, and it builds up. Then the light clicks on again. There's nobody there, and we're zooming in slowly to the lock handle, and then the light clicks on, and then there's a man in black with a mask on, looking, trying to mess with the lock, and the music builds, and then the light goes out again, and you hear And then next thing you know, there's just a POV. You don't know whose it is of somebody walking through a darkened house. And then it stops and then the lock comes on and then there's like an X through it. And then it's when you want to be safe, buy such and such a lock. You know what I mean? And then that's it. So it's kind of fucked off my walking POV thing, and then the night thing, which will require me to go out because I couldn't drive to Pima to get cameras because I can't drive either.
Right.
So I was just going to use my iPhone on a tripod. So that's kind of like my synopsis. My treatment of the commercial is going to be around 30 seconds to a minute. It depended on how long it took to build up the suspense with the audio. So
It sounds great. I mean,
I hope so.
can you do anything like use? I mean, maybe because of your situations, use like stock footage or something for the POV shot.
That's what I'm looking for on that. The night one is one where I have to get that. I've searched on YouTube. There's a couple things, but they look too fake. I want it to be more real, like you're looking at like my back door, and then I have a light that I have my wife click it on and off. It's just she's a nurse. She's not a technical. She doesn't know how to use the iPhone. So God forbid I try to get her to set up the tripod and put the phone in there. Which I have a phone tripod and everything, but that's kind of messed off. I'm hoping maybe in 3-4 days I'll be able to stand up and walk and go over there. So right now I'm couch to bed, and I need help to get to the bed. So
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
it's all right.
Well, I hope you feel better soon, and I'm looking forward to your project because it sounds really good.
Thank you.
How are you other guys doing with your project? Project One.
Doing good. I just went and did the filming on Monday.
Okay.
So only thing I have to do right now is just do the editing and fix up the timing a little bit, and then it should be good to go.
Okay. Remember when you guys mix the audio for your projects, remember not to mix exclusively in headphones. That gives you a distorted sense of volume. Unfortunately, I've had lots of students turn in projects where they were like, "Oh, it sounded perfect in headphones," and then you play it through speakers, and the sound is either way too low or too high. So definitely listen to it in the room when you're mixing it. Also, another common problem when it comes to creating adding sound to films is making the what's called a music bed or the soundtrack too loud, and so it overcomes the dialogue. So make sure that that you get that soundtrack really low, especially if you have things like dialogue and sound effects over it, so we can hear those over the sound bed. Okay, anybody else? Who else is making progress on their project?
I finished.
You're done? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't wait to see it. Did it come out the way you hoped?
Uh, I mean, it came out a little different than my initial pitch there. I changed it around a bit during the writing stage, but overall, I'm pleased with it.
Now, is it in the folder? I mean, could we take a sneak peek at it, or?
Yeah, it's in the folder there. You can take a look at it if you want, for sure.
Okay, let me see if I can bring it up here.
Being there under Karen Away commercial.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I found your folder. What's it called again?
Karen Away commercial.
Okay, .mp4. Yeah, I found it. Okay. Let me yeah, I mean if it's okay with you, I'd love to share it with the class. I know it's early, but since you finished, it would be nice for people to see a example of a finished project. So that's okay?
Yeah, I make them to be watched, so that's just fine.
Okay, cool. And that's a good thing to do, make them be watched. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And now, just so you don't freak out, like somebody jumping in going, wait, well, we're supposed to have our project done today. The projects are not due until a week from today. But Ken just happened to finish his early, and so he's nice enough to share it with us. So, Karen Away commercial, here it is.
Feeling like shit? Dead end job? Are you tired of the words?
I want to speak to your manager.
It sounds like you need Karen away. Scientists say that exposure to Karens can lead to stress, ulcers, divorce, and in the case of certain minorities, death by cop. Karen Away is a patented, megaphonic reciprocation system that drowns out annoying Karen gripes, driving their endless complaints and bitching to the manager back into the sewer where they belong. Go ahead, give it a try.
I'm not fucking Karen.
Touch you. If you want to take pictures, you have to be on the side of the.
You know what? I'm calling the police. This is insane.
What are you?
Karen Away! Go ahead and call them Karen. It's nicer than calling them cunts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is legit.
Oh my god.
Holy shit. Nice.
That was crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That was
So-
funny. Oh man, good
So
job.
I take it that was watchable.
Yeah. That was good. So what? Do you guys,
Entertaining. Entertaining.
yeah, what do you guys think? What did you like about? Like, what were the things that he did that made that good?
The intro really sold me, where it was like him shaking his head yes or no.
Yeah, like it was a big setup, you know, for
Yeah.
what's to come, right?
Yeah, at first I was worried about the audio, specifically the vocal audio, because it was very loud, but I don't know if that's your office or him, and maybe you need to take down the gain a little bit. But at the same time, it started to go with the Karen Away commercial. So the reverb on the audio, the over gain was kind of went with it. It was kind of cool. That was awesome, Ken.
Oh, well, thank you.
I also like that he wasn't afraid to be a little edgy with some of his jokes and language.
Yeah,
A part that really shocked me was with some minorities it could cause death by cop. It's like, oh my god, that shocked me.
yeah, I know that was kind of
Yeah.
there were a few points that in some language that just kind of jumped out, and you're like, whoa, um, you know, but you know, I mean, we're all adults. It's a free country, and you know, certainly you can express your views and your whatever language you want to use in your artwork. You have to, you know, the one thing you have to keep in mind when doing that is it, you know, if you express certain views or certain language, what kind of effect is that going to have on your audience? You know, like for example, if he really wanted this commercial to be on the air, you know, he'd have to change the language, and then you know, the subject matter of death by cop, if you're a minority, is such a controversial subject that he'd certainly get a lot of sort of feedback on that, you know, both pro and con. So you know, it was extremely well done. Did you guys think the audio worked for it?
Yeah, I thought the music was really good for it.
Yeah, the music was really upbeat and happy, and yet the subject matter was really you know, dark, like, you know, these horrific people doing terrible things to others. So it was pretty funny. I liked his little homemade Karen Away. What was it, like a little cone with aluminum foil over it?
Well, I bought a toy megaphone, but you know it was black and really, you know, unimpressive looking. So I covered it in tinfoil there, and then you know, I added red and blue lighting to it to make it look a little flashier than it actually is. You know, in person it, you know, looks like a piece of crap.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. It was really nice. I didn't know when you grabbed it, because it was tinfoil. I didn't know if it was going to be a hat or not. You know, the whole tinfoil hat thing.
Yeah, I did get that feedback. I was like a little pissed off. I sat it on end there for that one shot. You're right. That's what it looks like.
But it was really good. Very nice job. Okay, so anybody else want to give us an update on how they're doing with their project one?
I've started mine, but now for now I have a 1 minute long commercial, so I'm working on kind of shrinking it down to like 30 seconds.
Okay.
and still gotta clean up my audio.
And by the way, you guys, I gave you the 30-second, parameter, but if you go a little longer or a little shorter than that, that's fine. I wanted to give you sort of something to work around, work towards. Okay, cool. Anybody else have any reports on their project? Okay. Okay, so then once again, just a reminder, so the project is due a week from today, and you'll want to, export that into a movie format and put it in your Google Drive folder, and then we'll check them out next week. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to the, let's see, Abigail says, my project is doing all right. I just got a better camera. Ooh, how nice. So I can reshoot and whatnot. If not, I'll have to look for some stock footage because my phone quality looks like crap. Okay, I totally get that. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I told this to the people on Monday, but I want to tell it to the rest of the class. I talked to Loomis, and he said that film students or people who are taking classes in the film program like this audio class are allowed to check out the Zoom recorders from where you get your film equipment, and you can have those out for 2 weeks. So if anybody needs one of those, maybe make arrangements to check it out. Okay, so let's see. Let's go over to the class website. Please go to production. Go scroll down.
As far as like reshooting the image, are we allowed to use stock footage like that's already available online, or would you like us to shoot with the actual camera?
Well, I think especially if you're in the film program, it would be nice if you shot it yourself. If that becomes an impossibility, like we were talking to Carl earlier, and he's got issues where he's not physically going to be able to shoot anything, then stock footage is fine. Or if you have some sort of artistic reason to use stock footage, but just think about if you're making this project for the real world, you'd want to shoot as much of it as possible yourself. Okay, and I do recognize that there are limitations, especially with the virus. There may be places you can't go. You may have trouble getting actors. You might not even be able to get equipment for some reason. You might not be able to get on campus the times you need to get your equipment. So, whatever, I'm very flexible as far as restrictions. Do the best you can, and if you had to use stock footage because the circumstances demanded it, that's okay too.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So on Monday, I was talking a little bit to the class about soundproofing, and I showed the class a sound absorption panel that I made, and I have let's see, I put together this little sheet here for anybody that's interested in it. Let me go ahead and get to my downloads here. So I had made a sound absorption panel, which is made out of wood and foam and acoustic foam and muslin. And I made it locally, and it was really cheap. And so what I did was I just, one of the days when I was making this panel, I just took pictures of everything. And so I went to Home Depot, and I bought these 1-inch by 3-inch boards at Home Depot. And you could buy the nice looking board for $328 or the shitty board for $206. This is the examples of what each board looked like. And because the boards are going to be completely covered with muslin, it doesn't matter what they look like. So I would recommend the cheaper boards. Now let me, I have one of these sound panels right here. So let me just grab one. I'll show you the best I can on my computer here. So I'm going to bring up Zoom so I can actually see what the heck I'm doing here, and bring up my little video. Okay, there we go. So this is the sound absorption panel, and you can see it's made of that 1x3 wood built into a frame like a picture frame, and then this is muslin, which is just stretched over it and stapled. And then of course there's little screws that you put in to keep the sides together. And then this is the acoustic foam that goes inside of it. It's got that eggshell pattern, and you can get this anywhere. You can get this on Amazon or online, for maybe $20 to $40 a sheet. A 2 foot by 4 foot sheet. So it's not cheap, but it does a really great job. So anyway, these acoustic panels that you can make, they do an incredible job of helping you to control and optimize the sound in a room. In fact, the room that I'm in right now, it's the control room for my studio, has got sound panels around it. The little sort of cylindrical black thing you see in the corner is a sound absorber. But anyway, let me go back to these little supplies that I use to put this together. So you can, I called it muslin, but it's actually, it goes under a different name. It's called gabardine, the fabric. And what's great about it is it's really porous, and it needs to be porous so the sound can get through it and hit the foam and be absorbed, and it's really cheap. And so there's a store called SAS Fabrics on Speedway that's like, you can get it for $1.99 a yard. So if you guys need to make any soundproofing panels, this is a super cheap way to go. You can go to the, let's see. Now, I also recommend this stuff, which is called rock wool. If you don't want to get this foam, rock wool is like a form of insulation. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. So, when you hear about people soundproofing, you'll generally hear about them using one of two things, either this acoustic foam or some kind of insulation, right? This is rock wool, and it's got kind of a weird name, and it looks really weird. It's basically just big sheets of insulation, 2 foot by 4 foot, and it's got all of those kind of I don't know if it's pieces of glass, or I don't know what the itchy part of it is, but you should use gloves when handling it. But anyway, what I do is I take these things, I wrap them in like a garbage bag and put some duct tape around it and put it behind my acoustic panels. And these things are so dense that they just suck the sound up, right? Now, one of the things that's really interesting about sound absorption is the more dense a material is, the more it absorbs sound. And if you think about that, it makes sense. The atoms are packed closer together. So for example, if you wanted to make a super soundproof room, you could take concrete and you could like make it as thick as possible, 3-4 feet thick, and build a room out of it. And that's going to be incredibly soundproof because the sound is just going to get sucked into the concrete. You can't get past it, right? So let me go back, finish talking about this PDF here that you can download. So, for a little over $50, you could get a 6-pack of that rock wool. You're spending like, a couple dollars for the sets, the piece of wood, each piece of wood, a couple dollars for the fabric per yard. And, yeah, you're probably going to invest, $100 or $200 or whatever, but you'll end up with at least 6 2x4 absorption panels that you can hang around your room and really deaden the space and make it, optimize it. If you want to do something like mix sound in there for your film projects, record music or whatever you want to do. So, and then this is the place where you can get the rock wool international or locally. And then this site right here is the one that I showed the class on Monday, Orlex. And this is a site where you can go and you can put in information about the room that you want to soundproof. Now, most of us are going to be working with a room that is like a bedroom, which is like kind of like the size of what I'm in, or even possibly a garage or a walk-in closet or something. And Orlex has this system where you can upload a picture of your room environment, and they will tell you where to put the soundproofing, right? Now on Monday, I made a little link to this. Let's see if I can find it. Here's a website where you can figure out the acoustic treatment a room needs, right? So this is the Orlex website. So you go here and you just basically plug in all the dimensions of your room, like 12 foot by 20 foot by 8 foot or whatever. You put in your contact information, and then you upload maybe a little drawing of your room that you did on graph paper or with Adobe Illustrator or any kind of graphics program. And they will send you back a diagram of your room that a professional engineer, acoustic engineer has looked at, and tell you what foam panels you need to buy and where to hang them and stuff. Now, so I mentioned that to the class on Monday, but for you guys today, what I have is I have the actual diagrams that Oralex sent me back for not this room, but for a recording studio I had downtown for about 10 years. So let me go ahead and show you some of these images. So let's see, downloads. Okay, so I mentioned to the class on Monday that I used to be in this this giant warehouse, and I had rented like one huge room, which was called the live room, which is where the musicians record, and then a smaller room, which was the control room. And this small room was 12 feet by 20 by about 8 feet, and it had this weird fake column here where there was a water pipe in case there was fire. The fire people could tap into that. There was no column over here, and there were windows over here and a door, and there's a window right here. And so what I did was I wanted to make the room as symmetrical as possible. So I built a fake column here that was exactly the same size as this column. Then I covered the windows on this wall and the door with drywall. And I opened the drywall on this here because there was a door that had been covered by the drywall. And I put in a door there, and I just covered this window. So now I've got a room that's symmetrical and that has as few like glass surfaces as possible, because glass is kind of a funky, the way that it reflects sound. And so I sent this to Oralex, and they sent back this drawing, and they said, okay, you want to put foam panels in these corners to create something called a bass trap. Does anybody know what a bass trap might be?
Is it an area of the room that traps bass so that it doesn't leak out?
Yeah, exactly. So, every frequency of sound has its own principles. Like, there's mid-range sounds and trebly high sounds, and there's bass sounds. And for some bizarre reason, I mean, you could look up the physics of this, but bass frequencies, which are really, they're just kind of very long waves, right? For some reason, they tend to get trapped in the corners of rooms. It's weird. But if you're playing, if you've got a recording that you're working on that has like a lot of bass on it, what will happen is the bass, while you're playing it through the speakers, it'll go into the corner of the room and it'll just get stuck there. And then you won't hear it reflected back. So you'll be like, hey, there's no bass on this recording. You keep turning the bass up, and then when you go out in the real world, there's too much bass because it was actually there, but you can't hear it because it gets stuck in the corners of the room. So by putting these, bass traps, these foam panels in these corners, what you're doing is you're stopping it from getting trapped. It's getting reflected, it's getting absorbed, but enough of it is coming back in this scenario that you're actually hearing a more accurate level of the bass, right? So that's where they suggested that I put the foam. And then they gave me an even more detailed map of the room. And this was really cool. It's a totally free service that they did. And so once again, you can see right here, this is my room. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit more so you guys can see this even better. So what they did was they did an architectural drawing, which is like an explosion of the room. So this is the room itself, and you can see the two columns there, right? And then each one of these flat rectangular shapes next to it is like a wall, laid down flat, or, in the case of up here and down here, these are all walls. These are the two sort of long walls and then the two short walls, right? So what you can see here is this is where I told them I wanted to have my mixing desk, which is just, a term for, a console that you put recordings through. In your case, it could just be your computer desk, right? So here's the desk, here's the chair you sit in, here's the two speakers. Once again, there's a 4-foot distance between, the tweeters of each speaker. So, the little cones, you measure 4 feet, and then you angle the speakers so they point directly at your ears, and it forms a little triangle. And that's like the best, sound system that you can create. So what they said was all of these things that are in blue are panels, are the 2x4 absorption panels. Here they wanted 2 of them hung on the ceiling, They wanted two hung on the ceiling here. They wanted these angled in the corners to stop, to do the bass trapping so the bass wouldn't get caught in the corner. And then these green here are what's called a cloud. And a cloud is when you take a acoustic panel and you float it over your head. And so they actually wanted it floated right over the mixing station because that's, one of the important ways to absorb sound, right? And then you can see over here, this is really interesting. This is the pattern that they wanted me to use for hanging the sound absorbent panels on the wall. So you can see they wanted some going up. These blue correspond to the bass traps, right? But they wanted me to hang 3 panels here. These green things are the panels. And then you can see on this wall, there's an empty space where there's a couple panels. So they did a combination of what we call absorbent surfaces and reflective surfaces. So this surface with nothing on it is a wall. And so sound just bounces off of that, but then wherever there's a green box, sound gets absorbed. Now there's a third icon on here, which is this orange one, which has these weird surfaces on it. And this is for refraction, for sound refraction. And what it is they're recommending you buy these little plastic devices that come up at weird angles, right? Let me see if I can, let's see, shop residential diffusion. Diffusion is another name for these. Okay, so see these sort of bizarre shaped plastic things, especially this one right here. Let's see if they give us some side angles. It doesn't look like we have multiple pictures, but anyway, you can imagine just from looking at this weird plastic shape that, oh good, they do have some side angles. See, it has weird raised surfaces. So this is taller than this, and then there's little holes and stuff like that, right? So going back to the PDF, everywhere where you see orange, this is where they wanted me to put in a sound diffuser, which, once again, is surfaces of different heights. And when the sound hits that, it shatters into different directions. And so the combination of diffusion, absorption, and reflection creates an environment that gives you sort of the optimal sound. Now, as I told the class yesterday, I did some research because these things are expensive. They're not cheap, these diffusers. Let's see how much they are. Oh my God, that is insane. $77 for this thing. Oh, for a pack of 4. But it's probably, these are usually pretty small. It's probably like 1 foot by 1 foot or 2 foot by 2 foot. So that's, insane pricing when you get into, acoustic treatment. But what I did some research and I found out that you can build a bookcase, and a bookcase is a perfect sound diffuser. Because, of course, if you have a bookcase, you have books that are different, heights, and you might put some little tchotchkes on the book shelf, like little snow globes or whatever. And whatever you end up with on the bookcase, it ends up being all these different size surfaces. And so what I did was right here where this orange is and right here on the wall, I put in shelving, and I just put books and cassette tapes and CDs and whatever junk I had, and it became diffusers, right? So that, and I built my own panels, using the method I showed here. And so, that process allowed me to very inexpensively make an optimal and professional sound environment for my recording. Here you see the back wall. I actually put in a door with a glass window and then covered that with a heavy velvet curtain. But I had the glass window so I could open it and look out into the control room and see the bands and stuff. This also a curtain over this window, and then some more sound absorption. So this was really cool, and you guys can do this. I mean, even if it's just your funky little room set up, and you're like, yeah, I could spend $50 on sound reinforcement or whatever. You can send this stuff in, send in a sketch of your room, and then they'll tell you what to buy or build, and then you can build it yourself. Okay, any questions about that? Have any of you guys ever tried creating like a sort of an optimized sound environment for recording?
Not yet, but I've wanted to.
Okay, it says that store closed down. Trinity, the SAS Fabrics closed down? That's insane. I hadn't heard.
Yeah, they closed like this year.
Oh no, it had to be the whole virus thing, right?
I
Probably.
think they were planning to close down and then it happened, so it just kind of escalated it all.
All right, the virus happened, and so they just said, well, let's call it quits. Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but there are other fabric stores in town where you can get that material. You know, you just need to know to look for a gabardine. Okay, well, thank you, Trinity. I'm sorry to hear that because that was a cool place. Um, okay, so anyway, I'm sorry. Did somebody try to answer my question about building a sound?
I said I wanted to, but I haven't yet.
Okay, and were you going to do it in your room or?
Yeah, I was planning my room.
Okay, yeah, I mean the the rule of thumb with sound absorption is everything that you can do helps. So don't feel like, oh, I don't have $500. I can't, make a perfect sound thing. If you have, like I said, $50, you can make a couple of acoustic panels. You can put them on like the back wall behind you or something. And, immediately you've improved your environment. And when you're mixing, you're getting a more accurate sound. So, you can do it in waves. You can first set up a desk with your computer and your speakers. And then, one thing at a time. You could send your room sketch into Auralex, and for free, they'll send you back and say, okay, you need sound absorption panels, you need diffusers in these areas, and then you could move a bookcase into the diffuser area. You could spend $50 and build a couple panels, or you could buy panels online if you're not into building things. And then as time goes by, add more things to your environment until you've basically matched the map that they gave you, and you're golden. You're doing great things. Um, okay, so all right, so obviously our projects are going to be done next week, and then we're going to move on to another project. And the next project we're going to do after project one is going to have to do with Foley. Now, can somebody define Foley for me? What Foley is?
Yeah, basically it's creating sound effects.
Right. So your next project is going to be a sound effects project. And so what I wanted to do today is talk about sound effects, a little bit about the history of sound effects, watch a couple of videos, and then give you guys a little exercise where create a sample project using sound effects, and then you can, consider whether you want to use that as your actual project for, to turn in. So let's start by talking about the definition of Foley. So let me move some of these things here. So Foley is the reproduction of everyday sound effects that are added to films, videos, and other media in post-production to enhance audio quality. These reproduced sounds, named after sound effects artist Jack Foley, can be anything from the swishing of clothing and footsteps to squeaky doors and breaking glass. Foley sounds are used to enhance the auditory experience of the movie. Foley can also be used to cover up unwanted sounds captured on the set of a movie during filming, such as overflying airplanes or passing traffic. The term Foley also means a place, such as Foley Stage or Foley Studio, where the Foley process takes place. Foley artists recreate the realistic ambient sounds that the film portrays. The props and sets of a film often do not react the same way acoustically as their real-life counterparts. The best Foley art is so well integrated into a film that it goes unnoticed by the audience. It helps to create a sense of reality within a scene. Without these crucial background noises, movies feel unnaturally quiet and uncomfortable. Hence, one function of Foley art is to eliminate the uncanny valley. Now, what is the uncanny valley?
Isn't it we try to fake something that's so realistic that we can't really get our technology up to par with it?
It's something like that. What it is let's look up. I'm hoping we can. Oh yeah, here's some. I want to see some visual images of it. Okay. Now, the best way that I've heard uncanny valley described is in reference to computer or robots, sort of semi-realistic looking robots. And the way the uncanny valley is described is like, let's say you want to make a robot of a human being. Now, on this end of the spectrum, if you make one that looks exactly like a human being, then it's cool and people will accept it because they're like, wow, that looks just like a person, right? On this end of the spectrum, if you make a robot that looks like a cartoon, like some sort of anime or manga robot or something, people will accept that because they'll say, oh, it's an image of a robot. It doesn't look anything like a person. Where you get into trouble is the in-between space. If you make a robot that kind of looks like a person, but is not quite realistic enough, what it does is it sort of horrifies people that look at it. They're like, ooh, that's kind of creepy. You know, it looks like a person, but it's not really a person. That's called the uncanny valley, that area in between where people are not comfortable. And here's a little chart, right? So it shows you like, over here, it says if you've got something that looks like, a healthy robot or something, then that's going to be accepted. If you've got a toy robot, that's going to be accepted. But it's in between where people have a big problem with it. And you can look at some of these pictures, and I don't know which of these will trigger this uncanny valley reaction in you. Here's one that looks like a person but is not quite a person, right? And this one, right? And they're kind of a little disturbing in a way. And that's the uncanny valley. But what they're talking about in regards to sound is if you end up with sound that is not quite realistic, then it produces that uncanny valley feeling, and that people just don't buy it, and it takes them out of the experience of the movie because the sound effects don't match what their expectations are. Okay, so that's the definition of Foley. Let's talk about these sound effects on this link here. Okay, so this is just a guide for you guys to use on your next project. On your next project, as I said, it's a Foley project, so you're going to be making and recording sound effects. Now, you're also welcome to use sound effects that you find on the internet, or you can make them yourselves, which is pretty fun. And then this website here tells you, with sort of homemade items and everything, how to make your own sound effects that sound like other things. So like, if you want to make the sound of a World War II airplane flying, they say get some large fans and record different speeds and different powers up and down of these fans, right? Or, strangely, if you want to make the sound of a bat flying, take an umbrella and open and close it rapidly, right? So there's just some really cool directions here for how to make sounds, right? So this can be sort of a recipe for you guys. And if you're working, and of course, you're welcome to work as teams on these projects, if you feel comfortable in this current environment. And it's fun to get together with people and make sound effects. Okay, and then let's see. Let's click on this right here, this Foley link. So, of course, this is more a definition of Foley, and this is a picture of Jack Foley, who started out making sound effects for radio. And I know that my parents, when they grew up, my mom was born, I think, a little before World War II, and she remembers listening to the radio because the radio was around, before the television, obviously. And they used to do these radio plays. They used to have these weekly shows, and the family would gather around the radio on Sunday night or whatever, and they would have The Phantom or True Crime, and then they would have gunshots and sounds of people running and doors opening and cars screeching. And so Jack Foley was one of the innovators who made all these very realistic sounds. And so it says here, he worked for Universal Studios in 1914. By the time the talkies came around in 1920s, studios wanted to create authentic sound effects for their films. On set, microphones were only used to record dialogue. Therefore, sound effects would have to be recorded after the film was shot. And so he assembled a team that would project the film onto a screen while recording an audio track of sound effects, mostly footsteps. The earliest films had them adding the sounds of walking and doors opening and closing. Foley became the expert in sound effects audio recording. He continued to perform up until his death in 1967. That is a long career. Many of the techniques he developed are still used today. Now it says there's 3 types of Foley. Let me make this whole thing a little bigger so it's easier to see. It says Foley artists do not create every sound in a film. Complex sounds like car engines or computer noises fall under the direction of a sound effects editor. So in addition to a Foley artist who, makes sounds, you can also, push some of it off to a digital, engineer who actually creates those sounds in the computer. And they use a library of maybe pre-recorded sounds. So it says the Foley artists focus on three key areas: footsteps, movements, and specific props. Okay. And you can see here, this is really cool. This is a Foley studio. And you can see that they have different surfaces here for walking on, like tile and wood. And then they have all of these different sort of organic shapes here, or materials like wood and rocks and leaves for making sounds. So, here they talk about how they make footsteps, which is pretty self-explanatory. These little areas here are called Foley pits, which offer all different types of flooring, right? And allows the artist to walk on the type of flooring that the person in the movie is. Now, one of the things that we don't really think about, but when you film a movie, not only do you have to film the sound of footsteps, but also clothing, right? Clothing makes a sound as it, rubs, as pants rub up against each other, as purses bang up against people's hips and backpacks swish around on their backs. It says even denim jeans make a sound when a character crosses their legs or squirms in a chair. And of course, prop sounds can fall under Foley. And so Foley artists tend to work with props that characters interact with, like a sword being unsheathed. Now, we have a video here from Foley artist Marco Costanzo, and it shows how he used leaves to create the swirling sound of the witch from Into the Woods, which is an older film, and how he cracked celery to create the sound of breaking bones for The Big Lebowski. So, Big Lebowski, yeah, Dylan.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and watch this little flick here.
This was used in Into the Woods?
Yes, this is anytime the witch would appear, she comes in a storm. She's swirling around. So when she's out in the woods and she appears a number of times, all the leaves around are circling around her and towards her. And then she appears or disappears, and then they disperse. So she comes and goes in a whirlwind, and it's a very identifiable sound. And they needed swirls, and Blake Lee came in here and did it in a lot of stereo pairs of microphones. And
so he needed this real leaf sound.
Absolutely, and we have all this outside. So I just save them in fall. We have about 7 or 8 bags upstairs, and I needed them a number of times this year.
Huh. So you just always have a supply of dead leaves.
That's correct. Because you know what? When you're stepping on them, after 5 or 6 steps, it's gone.
They've lost their sound.
They've lost their sound.
So there's these crumple up and they stop being of any use.
Right.
Huh.
So this is for The Big Lebowski. All right.
That's a good crack.
That's a good crack. Yeah, right.
Now, after you've cracked somebody's back or torn their flesh or stabbed them, do you have any special sensitivities in your own life toward the real thing?
It's funny because I can do all those things for actors on screen and it doesn't bother me, but someone ripping a hangnail, my imagination would go, not just a little rip, but you'd rip it right up to your chin, and it's like, oh, because I go into the next level of it because they're constantly, the editors are saying, well, yeah, we want this, but it has to be so that it comes through and it breaks through and it's loud and it's big, and so I imagine that, and so when I see things in real life, I'm pretty squeamish. I don't like it.
So your imagination goes into
Kicks
sound effects
in immediately. Yeah, just like loud. Yeah, in my head. Like,
so real life,
yeah.
you get really squeamish.
I just broke a guy's rib cages, and I thought nothing about it. I heard the story about you breaking your ribs, and I'm immediately, oh, because I just immediately feel that, and I know what sound it's going to make, so it just comes to mind, and it's
okay. I'm just going to pause it there, but so that's pretty cool. The leaves and the celery. So it says today Foley artists create entire atmospheres. They record the sounds of characters, props, and even clothing. Gary Hecker is a veteran Foley artist who works on many of today's blockbuster films. He started his professional career in the 70s and 80s, working on films like The Exorcist, Friday the 13th, The Empire Strikes Back, and Back to the Future. Hecker now has well over 300 credits to his name. In this video from the Soundworks collection, Hecker shows you how he used classic Foley techniques to create sound effects for the film Robin Hood, starting with the process of recording the footsteps of the main characters.
Foley is a craft that goes way back in the vaudeville days. It was invented by a guy named Jack Foley. When they shoot a film, you just have the production and the dialogue, so they're concentrating on the dialogue, so all the sounds throughout the film are lost. So what we do is we go back and recreate those sounds for drama, intensity, to make it scary, more intense, or the detail in the film. I saw Foley when I was 16 years old, and I wanted to do that for my career. One of the first films that I apprenticed on was Empire Strikes Back. That one was a landmark for me because that got me motivated to do Foley. So I'm just checking this out, and these are these patented horse hoof things here. And then I'll punch for that grass, nurses. Keep going, keep going. And he goes by camera. Cool. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I just laid down the horse footsteps, and now I'm going to lay down the track of the bridle to go with the feet. Okay. We're gonna shoot. You're gonna hear it. It won't sound like that, but check out the screen.
Keep rolling a full playback with this is horse, bridle, and Hecker horse snorts.
We have to cover the film. First, we do all the footsteps of the main characters, whatever lead actors in the film, and then we do the background footsteps. Then we go through a prop pass, and that's all. Anything that's moving on the screen, pretty much we provide a sound for. It's like a big canvas of sound, and we paint different colors and textures and brush strokes. And when you put all those brush strokes and colors together, then you have a full canvas of sound. Foley is a craft, and a lot of people try it and they fail at it because you just have to have certain qualities that are really hard. It's an art form. You have to have, like I said, the timing and a huge creative mind, because like I say, you're thrown in this room, and you got to come up with this stuff. So I have to use the props that I have that I've acquired over the years. It's all organized on the stage. I have different sections of different props, and there's a closet in the back as well. It got shoes and chains, swords, guns, buttons, gadgets, cameras, just anything that you can imagine. Yeah, I know this looks like basically it's a green can, and you're probably thinking, how do you get to the weight and all that? But right now, Nurses is going to give me through the audio gear. It's going to pitch this down in a lot of octaves, really heavy, real heavy, Nurses. And it's Nurses Gazillion back there. Anyway, and also they obviously have sound effects as well, but this is just a small piece just to demonstrate. just putting this metal flavors, just one by one, we build these elements, hundreds of sounds for a scene like this, and these are like little paint brush strokes. This is just because the car's coming off a metal ramp. This is just giving you a metallic, ringy metal ramp sound. If it's Spider-Man or it's Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever it is, whatever that actor is portraying, if he's sneaking, stealthing, or walking big, or he's kicking down a door or whatever, you have to put that energy. That's the main thing in Foley, is that there's a performance, and that's what I try to do when I'm doing Foley.
Okay, so pretty cool video. I wanted to go back here and just show you one thing. Let's see. Right here. So if you look down in the corner here, the microphone that he's using, this is a condenser mic. And what it is, remember, condensers are the microphones that are expensive and that you generally use in places like the studio. So he's got a really nice condenser mic there, and condenser mics are, they react more sensitively to sound, so they pick up a wider range of sound. So of course, you would want to use a condenser mic as opposed to a dynamic mic. Dynamic mics are what you use out in the world, like on rock and roll stages and stuff like that. Dynamic mics are less expensive and they pick up less of a range of sound. And condenser mics are more expensive and pick up a wider range of sounds. Also notice that he's got this condenser mic on what's called a shock mount, which is that little sort of cage around the microphone, and that has little rubber clamps that hold the microphone in place. So while he's doing his sound effects, if he accidentally makes a vibration that hits the microphone stand, that little cage there will absorb the sound and it won't transfer it to the microphone, so you won't pick up that sound. So yeah, really cool, really interesting stuff there. Here's, of course, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. A funny story about this. This is what I read anyway. When they were filming, those of you that know this film, during this scene right here, King Arthur is, he's riding along, and his helper here is walking around along behind him and clamping coconuts together to make the sound of a horse, right? Because Arthur doesn't have a horse. Of course, it's a comedy and it's a hysterical scene. But actually, the reason that this scene happened the way it did, it's pretty funny, was because the people who were filming, Monty Python who were filming this, they didn't have the budget to be able to afford horses for the scene. They were actually going to have Arthur on a horse. And so they just took the sound effects and just put them right into the scene and clamped them together. And it made this sort of unforgettable scene. Now it says, if you're interested in recording your own sounds, check out Recording Foley Sound Effects, The Fundamentals. That's, I'm not sure if that's a book. Let's see what that is. Open link, a new tab. It could be a book or a video. Okay. I guess it's just a website that talks about how to make cool Foley sounds. Okay, and then they give you some examples here of how you can make certain sounds and stuff like that. Okay, very, very cool stuff. Let me go back to the class website. Okay, so we've been talking for a little while now, about an hour actually. So why don't I give you guys a little break? Why don't you take 10 minutes, get something to drink or whatever, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion about Foley. Okay, so we're gonna get started up again, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some websites where you can actually find sounds for free to use in your projects, or where you can find sounds that you can pay for if you have any kind of budget. So let's look at some of the free sound effects first. So here we go. Let's see. Free sound effects here. Okay. Let's see. This is a website. It's called freesoundeffects.com, and it has both free and paid sound effects. So here's some of the free ones listed here, and then there's pro sound effects here. So I'll go ahead and play some of the free ones. Let's see. Here is like a jet airplane. I'll make sure this isn't too loud. Okay, and you can just download an MP3 or a WAV. Does anybody know which one of those is going to sound better?
MP3.
The MP3, right? Why? Or I mean, I'm sorry, the WAV is actually going to sound better. Why? Why is it going to sound better?
Our quality?
Because no compression.
Yeah,
or less compression.
right, exactly, Bill. The WAV is what's called an uncompressed audio format. And so a WAV file is going to be, first of all, it's going to be really big, but it's going to be big because it captured so much sound. And so WAV files are generally what you want to use in projects like this. Now the MP3 is going to be a smaller file, but it's going to be compressed, and so it's going to sound less impressive. So you definitely want to get the WAV versions of these. So here's a few more. Here's let's see. Here's some city sounds. Let's see, a bunch of ambulances. Okay, let's see. Let's try some human sounds here. Cough. Let's see, some sports sounds. Some bowling, right? So, obviously there's, a few different categories here that you can open up and get all kinds of these. And like I said, these are completely free. And of course, you could take these sounds into a program like Adobe Audition and, edit them, make them fade in and fade out, repeat them, whatever you need to do. Or you can even bring the sounds into Adobe After Effects, if you're familiar with that program, and do things with it, Premiere. Okay, now let's see we have a few other websites that we can check out. So let me just go back to the class website here, pima.jericho.com. Okay, so let's see. Basic audio production. Okay, so we also have some free sounds here. And you can just go in here into sounds, and then you can do a search, or you can just, play some of the existing sounds here. So music at times could be considered a sound effect, right? Because it can, somebody might take mushrooms and then they're having a certain kind of experience. You could consider the music at that point being played as a sound effect. But I think with this site, you actually have to get a free account to download the sounds. So let's see if that's right. Yeah. So see, if you click on the actual sound itself, it says log in to download. But also, it will tell you the license for each sound. And this one is licensed under Creative Commons license, which means you can use it. Let's listen to a few others here. Okay, some people talking in the rain. What's nice about that is it's a nice long recording. So 3 minutes long. You know, this potentially could be the background for an entire clip that you do. And sometimes, you know, sound can be just as inspirational as images. Sometimes when you have to do a project, if you can't think of anything to shoot, sometimes you can go find some sound effects or listen to different sounds, and the sound might trigger some idea for images. So it's a resource for that. Here's just we'll just end this website with this acoustic guitar playing. Okay, this is just individual strings on a guitar, I guess. So that has kind of an eerie sound to it, because they're played so randomly. So, you know, it's such an unusual little piece there. That might be a great, like, little disturbing sound effect to put behind somebody who's thinking about something, you know, kind of unpleasant. Now, if at any point you have any kind of budget at all, somebody's helping to pay for the production of something, you can go to one of these sites where they have like really high quality sounds, but of course you have to pay for them. So here's something called SoundSnap, and so let's see. Right, crazy cartoon sounds. These sounds are great. I mean, they would be so much fun to use. Oh, that's actually pretty reasonable when you look at the prices here. 5 downloads, $15, $3 a sound, or 20, or if you want to go unlimited. So that's actually incredibly reasonable. I didn't think it was going to be that cheap, but you know, if you can't find the perfect sound and you got $15, you know, you can get five sounds that might just flesh out your project. Let's look at some of these other things. I'm not sure what a walla sound is. Let's see, walla. I'm not really hearing anything there. Okay. Huh. All right, let's try whoosh sounds. Okay, oh, that's a great sound. Yeah. And what's nice about a site like this is you get all of these different versions, all these different flavors, if you will, of just this one sound. I mean, like, how many different takes of this are there? And these are all just whooshes. So you can find the one that just, you know, perfectly fits either the scene you shot, or maybe if you get the sound before the scene, you can sort of sync them up. Okay, so this is a great site. Let's just end this site by looking at ambiance. Okay, I guess these guys are still loading. Let's see. I don't know why I'm not hearing some of these. That's strange. I don't know. Maybe they just have to load up and they're not quite loaded yet. Oh, here we go.
They're just really quiet.
Yeah, thank you, Vlad. Yeah, so that's kind of just a nice, you know, day sound outside with the birds and everything. So, you know, once again, this is a great resource and very affordable. You know, if you can't find, unfortunately, the sounds that you find for free online are going to be very limited, and sometimes you won't find exactly what you need. of course, making your own sound is super fun, and then you can customize it. But if all that fails, then you can, of course, go to a site like this one, the SoundSnap. Okay, so now, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed that you have to be careful about is that some of the sounds were on the free sites were really badly recorded, or they're very noisy, and there's a lot of distortion. So you kind of have to look around sometimes, and maybe there's 5 different versions of it, and only one of them is usable. But you know, free sounds are definitely free is always good.
Yeah, free is good, but you get what you pay for. So, like you said, and thanks for pointing that out, the quality might not be stellar, right? Now you can do things with that. Like, let's say you get the perfect sound, but it's got a little bit of a hiss in it, or there's some little click that happens. You can take that into a program like Adobe Audition, and remove that click, just erase it, or you can find the frequency. Sometimes there will be something like a hum, and like what's called a 60 cycle hum, which often happens, if there's some kind of electrical device running. And what you can do is you can find that frequency, and you can do something called notching it out in an EQ filter, and you basically just remove that frequency from the sound, or a few frequencies and kind of like a little V around that sound, and it's gone, for all intents and purposes. Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Bill. Okay, so what I want us to do now is I would like you guys to, we're going to do like a little exercise here where you write like just a little mini scene or script that uses sound effects, right? And my idea here is that you would write something that maybe you could potentially use for your next project. Now, if you write something today and it ends up that you don't want to use it, that's no problem. You can switch it out. But I'm going to kind of explain what the next project is, and then right now have you guys write something up, and then we'll take a look at what you guys did. So let me explain it. So I'm gonna scroll down to here, and let's see. So for project 2, which we're going to start working on after project 1 is due, which is next week. You're gonna create and film a public service announcement, also known as a PSA, and it can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute long. I'm saying 1 minute, but really 30 seconds to 1 minute, a little over, a little less. And it can be about something real or imagined. So in other words, you can do a PSA about something real like climate change, or pollution, or whatever floats your boat. Or you can make something up, like using Ken's example of Karens. You could do a PSA about how to reduce the amount of Karens in your neighborhood or something like that. But anyway, what I would like you to do right now is, on a document, come up with just a name for a scene, and then write down like up to 10 different sound effects that you think could exist in that scene, right? Things that you could potentially, sounds that you could create via Foley creation or get online. And I'll give you an example. I wrote an example here. So let's say that I was doing this project, and I decided that what I wanted to do was I wanted to take an animal shelter, like a cat and dog shelter that adopts pets to people, or euthanizes them, and that I wanted to pretend that there was a shelter like that that existed for millennials. Okay, because millennials are they're an easy target, so it's a lot of comedy is aimed at them, unfortunately. But so I'm just using millennials. I could use Gen Xers or Boomers. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so my idea for this, let me make this a little bigger. This website here is that the scene would be called Millennial Shelter. Okay, and so I would write that at the top of my document. I would say it's like a cat or a dog shelter for millennials, right? And so then, like, I could write in there in like a little paragraph. I could say a voiceover talks about how these creatures, right, need to be adopted or they will be put down. The camera switches from long views of a room with millennials in cages to like close-ups. And then this is my list of sound effects, and I wanted to come up with 10, right? So there could be millennials whining about, being snowflakes and being too special to be in a cage. There could be somebody asking for avocado toast, which is like something that people get made fun of nowadays. Somebody could be saying they need to get out so they can work on their iPhone app. So, I'm taking all these stereotypes and I'm just kind of throwing them into this. Somebody could have their car keys and it could be like a Mercedes car key and they could be racking it against the bars of their cage, like prisoners do in all those old movies. There could be sounds of like cell phones going off and pinging sounds of text messages, right? There could be a couple lawyers negotiating a contract for somebody who's obviously a YouTube influencer that's, trying to get a contract out of the situation. It could be some person talking about how they're perfectly happy in life. They need nothing but except an iPhone and an iPad, maybe an Apple Watch and a iMac, right? So they're both sides of the coin there. Somebody could be complaining about what we call first world problems, like how Netflix is not as good as Amazon Prime or something. Somebody could be struggling, talking out loud about the issue they have, how much of their Bitcoin they could sell off. And then finally, somebody could be taking selfies and streaming videos from like Instagram and Facebook accounts. So, and all of these things have sounds attached to them, right? So I just came up with some bogus scene and a list of sound effects. And I want you guys to do that right now. I'm going to give you some time. It's about a quarter after, close to a quarter after right now. So I'm going to give you guys about 20 minutes and see if you can write something up. Come up with an idea for a public service announcement that you could do. Give it a title. You can write some a little brief paragraph about how you might shoot it, and then give me a list of at least 10 sound effects that you think might be created to add to that project. Okay, so I'm going to give you till like 11:35. Like 20 minutes, and then we'll check back in and see what you guys have created. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So give that a shot. Hi, Carl. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Yeah. I just gave these guys an assignment. Did you hear me talking about the millennial?
No, I was basically blanked out.
Okay.
And I couldn't.
So let me share my screen again just to show this to you. And my
Okay.
apologies to those of you guys who are hearing a little bit of a repetition here. You can always mute my sound if you want right now. But basically, I gave people a little preview of what Project 2 was going to be, which we're going to start after, Project 1 gets turned in next week. But it's going to be a public service announcement about something real or imagined. So you could say it could be about climate change or something like that, or it could be about something fake, like, how to get Karens out of your neighborhood. And so what I did was I wrote an example here. My example sketch is like a millennial shelter, like a cat and dog shelter that's holding millennials, right? And and then I wrote that there'd be a voiceover that would talk about how somebody needs to adopt these poor creatures or they'll get put down. And then what I did was I made a list of 10 different sound effects that could be part of this project, right? And so I had things like, the millennials whining about needing their avocado toast, or where's their iPhone, or my Mercedes needs to get. I need to wash my Mercedes or something. So I have a list here, which you can see on the website, of 10 different sound effects that could be added to the scene that would really enhance the scene. And so this is a preview of Project 2. And so what I wanted you guys to do was I just gave everybody an assignment to take the next 20 minutes and to just write down an idea for a scene like this, a PSA. And then you can make a brief introductory paragraph about how you would shoot it, and then list like up to 10 sound effects that you think could be part of that scene. So yeah, I just gave everybody 20 minutes to do that, and so we're going to reconnect about 11:35 and see what you guys have come up with.
Okay.
Okay.